Tonight we're teaching on the 7 miracles that Jesus did on Sabbath days. And tonight is number 4. And this is a situation where he ends up healing a man at the Pool of Bethesda. And this account is only in the book of John. Remember how I told you Matthew, Mark, and Luke are synoptic gospels and pretty much tell the same stories? Well, John has different information, and some of the same. But this one is only in John, and it's in John chapter 5. And it says, verse 1, after this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. So, of course he went to Jerusalem. All males had to go to Jerusalem 3 times a year for the 3 main feasts. Passover, those 3 in the spring. Pentecost, which in that time was Feast of Weeks, 50 days later. And then in the fall, Tabernacle. So it doesn't say which one it is, but of course Jesus went. He went to all of them because he always kept the law. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. So whenever we hear that word Beth, and that's the English pronunciation, it always means house. Like Bethlehem is house of bread. So this Bethesda means house of mercy. Verse 3. In these 5 porches lay a great multitude of sick folk, of blind, of lame, and paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. So you got to think about this. All these sick people are on these 5 porches. And it's their belief that this water is going to heal them. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. But it was like a hospital with no doctors. All these sick people gathered, and I just wonder about the sanitation going on there. Had to be pretty rough, people who are lame. Verse 4. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and stirred the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. Okay, so this is what I want to tell you about this. This verse is not in the best manuscripts. Okay, it was definitely added later by a scribe, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It means that he was trying to explain why the people were there. So I can't say whether it was psychological or if people really got healed or if it was really an angel. I honestly don't know. Verse 5, and a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. I want to stop there. Think about this. Jesus was in his 30s. He was probably 31. This guy had been sick before Jesus was even born. He'd been sick 38 years, and you don't know if he was paralyzed, if he got lame when he was 20. You know, we don't know how old he was or if he was born that way. But however it was, he'd been in that condition before Jesus was even born. And I want you to think about all these sick people. He just selected this one man. And what he's doing by speaking to this man is getting the man's eyes off that pool because they all had to watch it. So when Jesus spoke to him, he took that man's eyes off the water and onto his face. When Jesus saw him lie and knew that he had been a long time in that way, in that condition, he said unto him, will you be made whole? And the sick man answered and said, Sir, I have no man when the water is stirred to put me in the pool. He's saying, yes, I do want to be whole, but I'm never going to make it to that water. He can't walk. But while I'm coming, another steppeth down before me. Okay, Jesus said he knew he had been that way for a long time. It could have been that Jesus could read minds and Jesus knew things, but it also could have been maybe as a boy. Jesus walked by there and saw that man. And Jesus said unto him, rise, take up thy bed, and walk. He gave him 3 commands. Now this guy doesn't even know who Jesus is. He's just some guy walking around there saying, do you want to be whole? And immediately the man was made whole and took up his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. Uh-oh, somebody's going to get mad about this. But here's the thing. He told him to rise. Then he said, take up your bed. You know why he said that? Because he wasn't coming back. When Jesus heals somebody, or when God heals somebody, it is permanent. And then he said, walk. Get out of here. Leave this place. And now I'm going to continue reading. And it does tell us that it's a Sabbath day. Verse 10. And the Jews, this is really talking about the Jewish leaders, therefore said unto him, the man who was cured, it is a Sabbath day. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed. Okay, they had so many laws. Do you know that you couldn't even carry a needle in your clothing? Because that would be work. Now, that's not real Sabbath law. That's not the law of the Bible. Okay, so they say it's not lawful because they had so many crazy laws. And, you couldn't put out a lamp on the Sabbath. The Bible doesn't say that. These are laws they made up. So, of course, you couldn't be carrying your bed in their minds. But if Jesus told them to do it, and he's the guy that invented the law, I think it's okay. And the man answered them. He said, he that made me whole, the same said unto me, take up thy bed and walk. So he's blaming Jesus, which he should. Jesus should take the hit for this. Okay, this man's just so excited to be healed. But he's saying, this man who told me to take up my bed, the man who healed me told me to do this. And he that was healed didn't know who it was. For Jesus had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. He just kind of blended into the crowd. But you know, in a lot of healings, you'll hear Jesus say, your faith has made you whole. This guy didn't even know who Jesus was. And I want to tell you something. There's a verse in Romans 9:15 and 16, which I want to read. It's about the sovereignty of God. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? Certainly not. For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. And I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. It's all up to him. He's God. He doesn't owe anybody anything. He'll have mercy on whoever he wants. So then it's not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth. It's not of our efforts, but of God that showeth mercy. That's how we obtain our salvation, through his mercy. And what's interesting about this whole mercy that's happening, it's happening in the house of mercy. Verse 14. Afterward, Jesus findeth him, the man who he healed, in the temple. Why do you think he went to the temple? He went there to thank God. Think about it, 38 years, he couldn't go to the temple. Now he's finally healed. The first thing he wants to do, which is interesting, that this is a guy that God chose. The first thing he wanted to do was go to the temple. I'm sure to be thankful. And Jesus finds him there. This is not an accident. And he says, behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon me. Okay, a lot of people think that he was sick because of sin, and that Jesus is saying, don't sin anymore, or a worse sickness is gonna come upon you. I don't believe that. And I'm gonna tell you why. In Luke 13, 1 through 5, I'll go through this quick. But something kind of similar is happening here. Luke 13. There were present at the season some of them that told Jesus of the Galileans whose blood Pilate mingled with their sacrifices. It means he killed them in the temple, and their blood got mingled with the blood of the sacrifices. And Jesus answering said unto them, Suppose ye that these Galileans were sinners above all Galileans, because they suffered these things? So he's asking them, do you think that this happened, this unfortunate thing happened to these people, that they were murdered because they were sinners? You know what Jesus says? I tell you, no. But except ye repent, ye shall all likewise perish. Now I'm going to get to that, what that perish means in a minute. Then Jesus says, or those 18 men upon whom the tower of Siloam fell, and it slew them. Do you think that they were sinners above all men that dwelt in Jerusalem? So are you thinking that calamity happens to people because they're sinners? He says, no. I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, ye shall likewise also perish. Now, this is what he means by that. First of all, repent means something very simple. It doesn't involve all this crime. It can, but it doesn't have to. It just means a change of mind. You're going one way, and you're going, I'm going the wrong way. I'm going to turn around and go this way. It may bring you to tears. It may not. You just may say, hey, I've got to do what's right. But that's what repent is, a change of mind that changes your behavior. But when he says, repent, or ye shall likewise perish, well, didn't they all perish? Didn't they all die? So he's not talking about that. He's talking about something a lot worse, which is what he's telling the man at Bethesda. Something a lot worse. That's hell. That's what he's talking about here in Luke, and it's my belief that that's what he's saying to this man. Behold, you're made whole. Go and sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon thee. Well, the worst thing that could come upon you than being lame for 38 years is going to hell, and that's what he's talking about. The man departed and told the Jews. He went right to the Jews. I know who it is now. That it was Jesus, which had made him whole. Therefore did the Jews persecute Jesus and sought to slay him. I mean, how many times have they thought to do this? Because he had done these things on the Sabbath day. They're all upset about Jesus healing on the Sabbath day. But you remember before they were upset about the man carrying his bed? I think they completely forgot about that. They don't even care about that anymore. All they care about is their main target, who they hate the most, and that's Jesus. But Jesus answered them, my Father worketh hitherto, and I work. He just said his Father was God. Therefore the Jews sought the more to kill him, because not only had he broken the Sabbath, their Sabbath laws, but said also that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. Well, he didn't break any Sabbath laws. He said before, it's good to do good on the Sabbath and not evil. And he was the Son of God. He was God in the flesh. So all the things he's telling them is true. They want to kill him for that. Then Jesus answered and said unto them, truly, truly, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For what things soever he does, these also doth the Son likewise. For the Father loves the Son, and shows him all things that himself does. And he will show him greater works than these, that ye may marvel. For as a Father raises up the dead, and gives them life, even so the Son gives life to whom he will. For the Father judgeth no man, but has committed all judgment unto the Son, that all men should honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He that honoreth not the Son honoreth not the Father, which hath sent him. Truly, truly, I say unto you, he that hears my word and believeth on him that sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come into judgment, but is passed from death unto life. Okay, I'm gonna end it right there with passing from death unto life.